Grace to you and peace from God who is, who was, and who is to come. Amen. So in the reading that we just heard from 1 Peter, the author is continuing to give the hearers of that letter the hope that they need. And they need this hope because of the persecution, the suffering that they are enduring. If you heard my message last week, I spoke about it. And in order to assist them, the author brings in some examples of suffering, and in doing so, he actually rather goes like straight for the big guns. He uses the example of Jesus on the cross. And he gives us the message that, if we mess up and are punished for it, I think we can all understand that. If I make a mistake, I have to deal with the consequences. Well, at least if I am a sane and reasonable person, I understand that. I understand it's my mistake, so I have to pay the price. But what if it's not my mistake? What if I am not the one who messed up, but I'm simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? 1 Peter says, if the suffering is for the sake of the gospel, then endure it. Look at Christ on the cross, the author says. He most definitely did not deserve that horrid, painful death, yet he allowed it to happen. So, another scenario. What happens if I'm trying to accomplish something and meet resistance? How might you handle a situation where you're doing nothing wrong, you're not being inappropriate, and yet those in power strive to stop you? That's the resistance that 1 Peter addresses. Live your life as a believer, the author says. Do whatever you have to. Strive to do your job to the best of your ability. And don't use your faith as an excuse to slack off, to be inappropriate. Don't use your faith in some superior manner either. Don't give the attitude of, I'm a Christian, I don't go to those kind of movies, or I'm a Christian, I don't go to places that serve alcohol, or I'm a Christian, I don't, you fill in the blank with whatever. Resist that temptation to put yourself above others simply because they're a non-believer. If you do put yourself above others, you're going to have a difficult time winning them over to the gospel. In verse 15, always be ready to make your defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. In the 2nd century, there was a believer named Polycarp. He was a bishop in Smyrna, that's in modern-day Turkey. And he was facing his own execution because he was a believer. There was a letter written shortly after his martyrdom. It was appropriately named the Martyrdom of Polycarp, and it was sent to the other churches there around Asia Minor. And in that letter, it says, the aged bishop refused to give a defense to the crowds in the stadium on the day of his execution. The proconsul kept urging him to swear by Caesar's fortune, and Polycarp told him that he would not, since he was a Christian, but that if the proconsul wanted to hear about Christianity, he should name a day and listen. When the proconsul invited him to try to persuade the crowds to let him go, he refused, saying that he was willing to explain himself to the lawful ruler, since Christians are taught to respect those in authority. But as to those people in the stadium, I do not consider them worthy to hear a reasoned defense. Resist the ways of the world, 1 Peter tells us. Resist giving in simply because it's easier. Resist walking away from the faith just because as a believer, as an active and productive believer, that takes work. There's been a few times in my own life when I've run into people relatively new to the faith and they've said something along the lines of, life with Jesus is all sunshine and rainbows. I don't know that I've ever experienced life being sunshine and rainbows. It's been my experience when people look at faith, look at their life with Christ as being sunshine and rainbows, what they really want, what they're really believing is that Christ is going to be some kind of an insurance policy that nothing bad is ever going to go wrong in their life again. And then when stuff does hit the fan, well, their faith goes out the window. Now, personally, I find faith, I find Christ to be far more meaningful, far more strengthening when those storm clouds are rolling in, when the wind is whipping around, when the rain is coming down sideways, or to not put it so metaphorically, I find my faith to be far more meaningful when I was lying on that hospital gurney, waiting to have my chest cut open and new veins sewed onto my heart. I found my faith to be more meaningful when I sat in that comfy chair waiting to have the IV hooked up so that the chemo could begin flowing through my body to try to kill the cancer. I found faith to be far more meaningful when I sat in that hospital chair talking with my mother, knowing that this was going to be the last day on earth that I would ever be able to talk with her this side of the church eternal. Those have been the times that I know Christ has been with me, helping me to resist that darkness that this life is too often filled with. Christ gives us the power. Christ gives us the will. Christ gives us the ability to resist all that works against God, to resist all that works against life. We use that same language in our baptismal rite. Before we proclaim our faith in God using the words of the Apostles' Creed, we are asked 3 times to resist everything that works against God. And 1 Peter brings up baptism, I think, to help us remember to resist running away from faith and instead to hold firmly onto those baptismal promises. Those promises that we are loved by God, we are forgiven by God, and that we are joined together with God. Verses 21 and 22 put it this way, and this is the First Nations translation. The story of what happened with Noah and the flood then is a way to understand our purification ceremony with water, a ceremony that's performed to set us free and make us whole. This ceremony does not just wash the dirt from our bodies. It shows that from deep inside, we are crying out for the Creator to set us free by what He did when He raised the Creator sets free, Jesus, who is the chosen one, from the dead. And the chosen one now sits in His honored place at the Creator's right hand in the spirit world above. From there, the chosen one rules over all spirit messengers, authorities, and powers. Family of God, we are called to know God. We are called to share God's love with all those around us, and we are called to resist everything that works against God. So let us strive to live that way, today and always. Amen.